I am the recognized top womanizer at university. I flitted through the flowers without getting caught by a single petal. The only one I truly took seriously was Alara. We talked for a long time, but then when she was drunk and emotional, she whispered another man's name. She sobbed, saying, "I've had enough fun. I want to find an honest man and marry him." A mouthful of old blood instantly lodged in my throat. A mouthful of old blood instantly lodged in my throat. Damn it. You've had enough fun, but I'm not done yet. Later, in my moment of failure, I happened to run into my first love, Lyra, who had returned to the country. I suddenly became all sincere and said, "Wife, I've always been thinking about you." But the next moment, Lyra gently smiled and said, "So, when are you going to take me off your blacklist? As for your previous wrongdoings, we'll talk about it later." And later, day after day, my legs trembled like sifted wheat, as if I couldn't hold up any longer. And when Alara with red eyes begged me to forgive her, Lyra raised her eyebrows and mocked. "I'm already showing, but you're still not letting go?" Chapter 1. I made my way from a small town to the capital university. I had almost no advantages besides my looks, yet I could easily flit through the crowd without ever getting attached. Whether they were rich young women or brilliant school queens, I could easily win their hearts. I'd play the ambiguous friend role, and after winning them over, I'd act oblivious. As a result, I earned the title of the top womanizer at the capital university. Even so, they still saw me as their idol, treating me with tenderness and dependence. In their eyes, I was a lost soul in need of rescue, and they were sure I would settle down for them. Whenever the mood was right, I'd always redden my eyes and tell the story of my first love, how I once loved her so deeply, but she fell ill during her prime and eventually left me, becoming my eternal regret. Perhaps because of this, I became insecure, unable to truly establish a lasting and stable relationship with the opposite sex. In such moments, I'd look at them with deep, sincere eyes, as if saying, "You're different." That expression full of love always made their eyes shine with sympathy and a desire to save me. But I knew clearly they were just temporarily feeling like saviors. Privately, they still shared dog training strategies on social media, backup plans, and how to train their ATM boyfriends to show their independence and clarity. I didn't feel uncomfortable with it, so after all, it allowed me to switch between flirtations without guilt. Having such thoughtful backups was simply great. Only with Alara we really took things seriously for a long time. She was gentle, considerate, understanding, and never went to extremes with feminism. She'd spend months knitting a fine scarf for me by hand. She'd walk through every street with me to find authentic hometown flavors. And after being with me, she would keep her distance from other men. There was no doubt about it. She was my ideal type. Just as things were about to become official, I overheard her drunkenly murmuring the name of another man. She whispered, "Kenji, I'm done playing. When are you going to marry me?" She leaned against the bar, resting her chin on her hand, swaying slightly and murmuring, "What am I thinking? I've been with a womanizer like this for so long, and you don't care at all. How could you still wait for me?" The bartender and I were standing nearby and overheard everything. The bartender, moved by her, said thoughtfully, "She even put your contact info as her screensaver. She really loves you." I turned pale, my hair turned green, and my nose was red. I felt like a clown. I scratched my head and said, "Well, I'm not Kenji. I'm just the womanizer who's been with her for so long." The bartender was speechless. He opened his mouth but couldn't say anything. I suppressed my sorrow, paid the bill, and asked the bartender to book her a private room. I was left with nothing but a thin, frail silhouette. Chapter 2. When I got home, my face immediately darkened. I rushed to the bathroom and splashed my face with cold water several times before I could calm down a little. God knows, a mouthful of old blood instantly lodged in my throat. I was wondering why so many people called me a jerk and advised her not to be with me, yet she still insisted on accepting my confession. Turns out she was just using me, this loser, as a tool to irritate her ex. Damn it. Using a womanizer as a tool, how is that right? I screamed, "Fuck your mother," countless times in my mind before I could settle my emotions. The bathroom door was knocked on, and I opened it to find Kai, who looked like he had just woken up. He rubbed his eyes and asked, "Bro, are you okay? Did someone insult you again? Give me their account. I'll go after them." Hearing that warmed my heart. Being in the womanizer business, were often cursed out, especially by those knights in shining armor, simp protectors, and even stalkers who come to my social media to insult me. I didn't mind. I could even show some magnanimity. Kai couldn't stand it and would often fight with those who insulted me late into the night. There were also people in the dorm who disliked me and would often pick fights with me. When he found out, he suggested we move out, so we rented an apartment nearby. After Kai started his own business in college, he began working hard to earn money. His first car was actually bought as a gift for me. He knew I was a flirt and would even take the initiative to help me check out and introduce beautiful women. When we were kids, I took on the role of parent and cared for him. Now that we're older, the roles had reversed. I patted his back and said, "It's nothing. I'm just planning to switch things up." Kai looked at me knowingly. He said, "Before, you'd change girlfriends every 2 months at most, but this Alara has been around for almost a year. I thought she was going to be my sister-in-law." I gave a guilty smile. I replied, "How could that be? Do I look like the kind of person? If he knew I'd messed up this time, what would be left of my glorious image in his eyes?" This matter had to be kept between us. Thinking of Alara, I couldn't help but smirk inwardly. If I really played with an innocent girl's heart and got betrayed and tricked in revenge, I'd accept it. That would be what I deserve. But Alara, that bitch, she doesn't deserve that. I curled my lips and looked at Kai. I said, "Kai, help me with something tomorrow." Chapter 3. The next day, I went back to the dorm to pick up the rest of my luggage. As soon as I reached the door, I heard the laughter of the jealous cucumber roommate. He laughed and said, "Ha, even the womanizer gets played sometimes. This is so satisfying. Always acting like he's the center of the world, thinking all women fall for his act. Now he's seeing reality, huh?" Another roommate replied, "Rowan, your goddess took your money and went to a hotel with another guy. If it weren't for Ethan, you'd still be kept in the dark. Isn't this a bit much?" That was one of the roommates who couldn't stand it and spoke up for me. I pushed the door open and smiled. For some jealous cucumbers, even my breath is a mistake. Rowan looked displeased and said, "So what? Did I say something wrong? You play with so many women, and you're actually proud of it?" I looked at him, my eyebrows slightly raised. I smiled and said, "Of course I'm proud. I don't spend a dime, yet women rush to me and pay for me. I can barely keep up with all the dates. Now look at you." I gave a playful smirk. I continued, "You eat instant noodles, spend all your pocket money on women, and then when they turn around, they take your money and go to another guy's hotel, and you still feel like you're part of the action." A few roommates couldn't hold it in and lowered their heads, trying to hold back laughter. He was so angry his face twitched, but he couldn't say a word. I said, "You enjoy insulting me as a womanizer, but do you know how much effort it takes to be a top-tier womanizer? I wake up at 5 every morning, work out for 2 hours, focus on my ABS and core. I eat a balanced diet and never touch fried food to ensure my energy and mental state. I go to bed at exactly 10 p.m. every night. Every day, the first thing I do when I wake up is weigh myself and measure my body fat percentage. I've kept this routine for 5 years. But external conditions are just the basic requirements. To be a better playboy, I majored in psychology and taught myself philosophy. Psychology lets me see through a person's essence and steer the situation in the right direction. Philosophy is the best way to strengthen and arm my brain, keeping me calm and sharp in any situation. I do background checks on every woman I take an interest in. If she's into oil painting, I'll learn about the history of oil painting in the works of Da Vinci, Giorgione, Monet, and other masters. If she loves extreme sports, I'll go try bungee jumping, paragliding, or skydiving. If she's into feminist independence, I'll treat the second sex as my Bible, using circular reasoning to make her happy. I need to both keep up with her conversation and provide emotional value. But when it comes to the flirtation process, maintaining a proper balance is key. Flattering someone too much will only make them think their value is extremely high. The key to understanding human nature is the ultimate emotional fluctuation. Sometimes they're moved to tears, sometimes they feel unbearable pain, sometimes they're indulged in excitement, and sometimes they're anxious and insecure. This emotional volatility creates strong memory anchors in the brain, constantly amplifying their immersion in the relationship. And sunk cost theory tells us, the more someone invests, the harder it is for them to quit halfway. So I never rush to have someone. I just slowly make sure they can't live without me. On top of that, I need to ensure my abilities to satisfy the desire for strength. As a result, I've ranked first in psychology for 4 years, served as president of both the debate and broadcasting clubs for 2 years, and received an offer to study at a top university in the UK. All this smooth sailing is built on countless days and nights of hard work. I looked at the dumbfounded Rowan. I smiled and said, "If you could do what I do, you wouldn't be here complaining." I grabbed my suitcase and left in style, hearing one of my roommates quietly say, "I'm not jealous of his success at all." Chapter 4. After I went downstairs, I immediately wore an expression of despair. People passing by would glance at me, some intentionally, some unconsciously. I picked up my phone, and it was full of missed calls and message notifications. My backup plans were all concerned about my mental state because just last night, my secondary account was exposed by someone with ill intentions and posted on the campus wall. It recorded the story of a deeply emotional man who, after suffering psychological trauma, got close to the light source. At the end of the story, the light source turned out to be fake, leading to a deeper abyss. Those who heard it were heartbroken, and those who saw it were moved to tears. The post detailed the sweet and sour moments of my ambiguous relationship with Alara, narrating it in an overly dramatic way. Through words, I've been good with words since I was young, and charming phrases come to me easily. As for the incident at the bar, a bartender even came forward to verify the truth of the story. I had completely become the object of everyone's sympathy. What's more heart-stirring than a prodigal son returning only to be cruelly betrayed? After all, saving a jerk is far more fulfilling than being with a good, decent guy. It makes a woman feel needed. Another phone call came in, and I answered it with a hoarse voice. A younger female student asked, "Senior, are you okay? Alara's such a bitch, don't let her get to you." I croaked, "I'm fine. I just want to be alone for a while." She said, "She's not worth your sadness. Maybe you should try looking at other people." I weakly smiled and replied, "Thanks." Of course, I wasn't sad. After all, this secondary account was something I had put out myself. I have more than 10 similar accounts. Each one records the stories of different flirtations. I knew that someday they would come in handy. Chapter 5. When I got home, Kai eagerly told me everything that had just happened. He said, "Bro, when I was taking the things you gave me downstairs to throw out, I just so happened to run into Alara in the hallway." He continued, "When she saw the ring in the burned scarf, she almost broke down." I raised an eyebrow, the corners of my mouth lifting into a faint smile. Last night, I had bought a fake ring and burned the scarf Alara had given me, then casually tossed them into a shoebox. After I saw Alara's message saying she was downstairs, I had Kai take those items downstairs and throw them away. He understood my intention, and seeing her, he sighed deeply, saying, "As soon as my brother got back, he locked himself in his room and drank in silence." I've never seen him like this before. He glanced at the things in the box and said with a regretful expression, "My brother used to cherish this scarf so much, he wouldn't even let me touch it. And this ring, he spent all his savings to buy it. He said he was going to use it when he proposed. He's already in so much pain. I'm really worried he's going to do something drastic. Who the hell hurt my brother this badly?" I heard that Alara's eyes immediately turned red. She carefully cradled the box of broken items in her arms. Tears streamed down her face as she choked out, "It's all my fault. I'm so sorry, Ethan." Then she transferred 50,000 yuan to Kai, asking him to pass it to me, but to never let me know it came from her. Kai couldn't refuse, so he reluctantly accepted it, and then said something that struck deep. My brother said meeting you was like finding redemption. He thought you were special, but in the end, he lost, and he lost terribly." Alara's psychological defenses completely crumbled in that moment. Chapter 6. I gave Kai a thumbs up. Without him, I really wouldn't make it. Kai suddenly gave a shy smile. He said, "Bro, I need to discuss something with you. Aren't you going to study abroad in the UK? Why don't you become one of those men who are loved but unattainable, and I'll play the role of your substitute?" My brain went completely blank for a long moment before finally reconnecting. I asked, "Are you out of your mind?" He smiled mysteriously and said, "Just treat it as my little kink. This way you'll be able to get rid of their entanglements, and I can take the opportunity to make some money. As for the money, how about we split it 70/30ths?" The frown on my face immediately loosened. Money wasn't the issue. My brother had always been well-behaved and thoughtful. So what if he had a little kink? Of course I'd indulge him. As my brother, he should get the best of everything. So I set my sights on a rich young lady in the upper-class circle, Serafina Shio. The wealthy, never-been-in-a-relationship young lady was practically the perfect candidate. And so, I encountered the biggest failure of my life. I met her at an art exhibition and confidently and casually took the initiative to strike up a conversation. "Does Sue like oil painting too?" To my surprise, she coldly glanced at me and said, "I like comics." Damn it. I followed her to an empty classroom, planning to act like it was a coincidence and get closer. She immediately stood up, not giving me a single glance, and muttered to herself, "I think I'm being haunted by a ghost. Maybe I should find a master to take a look." I was speechless. After several failed attempts, I finally managed to enter the Shio family's private room. Before I could say anything, I bumped into a server. A ceramic wine cup shattered on impact. Serafina Shio propped her chin up with one hand, calmly looking at me and saying, 10 million. Pay up." I closed my eyes, feeling like I was about to explode. She's blatantly scamming me, and she still has the nerve to act like this? Just as I was about to lash out and curse her out, she cheerfully said, "How about this? Why don't you introduce me to your brother, and we'll call this whole thing off?" How does that sound? I was stunned. "You like him?" Serafina blinked and said, "Yeah." After hearing the full story, I couldn't help but sigh. Is there really such a perfect match in the world? All right, I agree to this arrangement. But then I thought of something, and my face turned serious. I said, "However, you should prepare yourself. My brother is into cosplay." Serafina was speechless. Chapter 7. As I stepped out the door, I exhaled a long breath. The more I got close to Serafina Shio, the more I felt an odd sense of discomfort. It wasn't that I felt embarrassed, but whenever she acted all sarcastic, I would somehow see the shadow of a past acquaintance, and the surname was the same. Could it be? I lowered my head in thought and bumped into someone. The sweet scent of citrus hit me, and I froze in place. Before my brain could process it, I felt a sharp sting in my eyes. I looked up with red eyes and saw that familiar face, the one etched deep in my memories from my youth. The once delicate and youthful girl had already shed her innocence. Beneath those refined, delicate brows and eyes, the cool, aloof air she carried was even more pronounced than before. She parted her red lips, and those peach blossom eyes that should have looked gentle now held nothing but mockery. She asked, "Sir, do I look like your first love who died of illness?" I stared at her blankly. I adjusted my emotions, and with a painful tone I said, "Lyra, it hurts." My chin trembled slightly, and I choked on my words. Lyra's smile gradually faded, and her gaze tightened as she spoke impatiently. "Don't tell me you're mourning for another woman." I remained silent, but my phone rang at just the right moment. It was Alara. Lyra naturally picked up my phone and answered it. Alara's voice came through. "Ethan, bro, I know I was wrong, but at least let me see you. Can we do that?" I looked at Lyra. Her peach blossom eyes locked onto me, her lips pressed into a straight line. Her calm and gentle exterior seemed like it could vanish at any moment, revealing the hidden obsession and instability underneath. The next second, she smiled seductively and dropped the phone on the floor. On the other end of the line, Alara asked, "Where are you, Ethan, bro? Are you there? Say something." The room was deathly silent. Lyra pressed herself tightly against me, her soft arm wrapped around my neck. The sweet scent of her breath lingered near my nose. She rose on her tiptoes, wild like a little feral cat, filled with unreasonable eagerness, desperately craving my presence. I could taste the intimate kiss, the faint sounds of it echoing and hitting sensitive nerves one after another. In the silent, dimly lit room, only the sounds of our intertwined breaths remained. It seemed Alara sensed something was off, and her tone turned cold. She asked with dissatisfaction, "Ethan, who are you with?" Lyra slowly pulled away, gently pressing her finger to the lip she had bitten until it bled. In the dim light, her eyes were dark and deep like a cold, bottomless pool. Her voice had a slight breathiness to it, seductive and captivating. She said, "Just take me off your blacklist first. As for your past mistakes, we'll talk about them later, okay?" My mind, still dazed, finally snapped back to reality. At that moment, I smiled at her, my expression soft, my voice laced with longing as I said, "Go to hell." Lyra was speechless. I picked up my phone, hung up, and walked away without looking back. Chapter 8. When I reached the bottom of the apartment building, I saw Alara crouching in the corner of the staircase. Her petite figure was hidden in the shadows, and several crumpled tissues were scattered at her feet, giving her a frail and wronged appearance. When she heard movement, she stood up and looked at me. Her eyes were filled with tears, moist and glistening. We stared at each other for a few seconds, and she lowered her head, wiped her eyes, then tightly clenched the tissues in her hand, as if forcing herself to calm down. She said, "I'll clean this up when I leave." I averted my gaze, too lazy to play along anymore, and turned to walk away. She quietly asked, "Ethan, who was the woman you were with just now?" I stopped in my tracks and turned back. I asked, "Who are you to question me? Come on, it's been nearly a year, and you still haven't gotten that Kenji to come back?" I had done a lot of digging to learn about this person named Kenji. Alara and Kenji had grown up together, and Kenji had loved her for many years. But before university, Alara had been a gold digger, only looking for rich and handsome men, and she didn't look at poor guy Kenji. She even distanced and hurt him because of her friend's instigation. Kenji, disheartened, changed his university application and severed ties with Alara completely. When Alara realized what she had done, she regretted it deeply and went to his school to try to win him back, but found him with another girl, smiling brightly. She believed that Kenji was only doing this to make her regret, and so I became her target. Alara used all her tricks to weave a web full of love and tenderness to make Kenji jealous. She even managed to drag me into it. But in the end, that web only trapped her. At the end of it all, she grasped nothing. Alara lowered her gaze in despair, her lashes trembling. She spoke with difficulty. "I know Kenji won't come back. It's always just been my obsession. He told me, the past can't be changed. I should focus on the present." Alara looked at me, pain rising in her eyes. She choked up and said, "That night I got myself drunk and realized that Kenji's shadow was getting farther away, while your smile was becoming clearer. I think I've really let go." She continued, "In this past year, I've seen so many sides of you that no one knows, and my emotions have been stirred countless times by you. I've long since lost track of whether I was acting or if I've just become accustomed to being with you." Seeing me silent, she slowly walked toward me, her eyes filled with pleading and a hint of hope. She choked up again and said, "Ethan, I'm sorry, but I'm willing to do anything to make it up to you. Please give me one more chance. I'm begging you." Alara tried to throw herself into my arms, but I shoved her away, crossing my arms and looking down at her, a mocking smile curling at the corners of my mouth. I laughed and said, "Don't overdo it with the pity act. You look really ugly when you cry." Maybe it was the first time she had seen me so cruel. She stood frozen, her pupils trembling, unable to say a word. I sneered, "Do you love Kenji? I doubt it. You've just gotten used to him chasing after you, taking his affection for granted, and when he left, you couldn't accept it. You're the same with me. You can't accept that you wasted a year of your life and ended up with nothing. So you put on this pitiful act to make yourself feel better." She cried, shaking her head desperately. "I don't. I'm sincere with you." I asked, "Really? If Kenji came back, what would you do?" Her pale lips parted, and she lowered her gaze to avoid my eyes. I grinned and looked at her, saying, "I know exactly what kind of woman you are. You'd go back to him, and on a night when you're mad at him, you'll remember me, feeling guilty while indulging yourself in pleasure. And when it gets exposed, you'll angrily blame me. Bad guy, Ethan." "Alara, admit it. You're just a bitch who can't change her ways, forever stuck in regret and dissatisfaction." I no longer looked like the warm, gentle guy from before. I tore away her facade without mercy. Alara's face turned ashen, and she left in a hurry, almost running, her high heels clicking as she fled. It was as if I was a monster, and even her back seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Chapter 9. When I got home, I found that Kai had gone to class, and only then did the tension in my body finally relax. For some strange reason, I logged into an old secondary account on social media. I searched through a handful of followers and found someone. Luckily, he was still posting. The latest post was a silhouette of him kissing a woman under the sunset on the beach. The caption read, "Childhood sweethearts finally together." Bang! I threw my phone, and the screen shattered into pieces. My heart seemed to be squeezed at that moment, making it hard to breathe. The vague hope that had risen in my mind was shattered in an instant. All that remained was the unbearable anger and helplessness. Childhood sweethearts, again with the childhood sweethearts. Lyra was like that. Alara was like that. Is this my fate, that I, Ethan, can never have a childhood sweetheart? In the first year of high school, a transfer student named Lyra joined our class. Though she was reserved, the noble aura around her was undeniable. Beneath her gentle and quiet exterior was a sense of distance that kept everyone at bay. In the first few days, during breaks, many boys would pretend to go to the restroom or look for someone just to casually glance at her. The girls were also very vigilant, worried that she might steal their crush. As for me, from the moment I laid eyes on her, I knew I had to win her over. Most of the students in our small town were shy and introverted. None dared confess their feelings. I wasn't like them. I would take the initiative to chat with her and ask her questions. Though these questions were ones I already knew inside and out, I would take the opportunity to give her little gifts as a thank you once she answered. Sometimes it was a bottle of milk, other times a bag of snacks, or even a wooden sculpture I made with my own hands. I knew that girls from big cities had seen expensive gifts before, but a handmade gift would stand out and be special. When the monthly exam results were posted, Lyra stood by the bulletin board for a long time. The rankings were posted there. First place Ethan, second place Lyra. Her eyes trembled slightly, and she shot me a cold glare. Are you messing with me? I pretended to be innocent and said, it's all thanks to your teaching. It's your achievement. Her gaze became complicated. After a long pause, she parted her lips and said, don't ask me about questions again, and don't give me any more gifts. The implication was clear. Stop bothering me. My smile faded slightly, and I lowered my gaze. All right, got it. With that, I turned and left. Chapter 10. For the next month, I didn't approach her at all. I didn't even make eye contact with her. In our small classroom, it felt as though there was an entire galaxy separating us. Many people noticed that we had broken up, and they thought they had another chance. The girls eagerly came to me to discuss study problems, while the boys would occasionally hover near Lyra. The difference was that I smiled at every understood. I'm ready for your follow-up content to ensure name consistency and smooth context. Perhaps because he had been so close to death, he finally realized that he had ignored this child for 16 years. He wanted to mend their relationship, and with the excuse of his illness, he kept Lyra in the UK. Before he passed, he stubbornly held Lyra's hand and asked, do you resent me? Lyra said she didn't. Her answer was gentle but distant. I don't know what the Shio family's father was really thinking, but I feel sorry for Lyra Shio. When she needed family the most, everyone treated her like she didn't exist. They vented all their resentment on such a young girl, never considering how much she must have suffered or blamed herself. And when she no longer needed her father and brother, they came back and emotionally blackmailed her, pretending to be the loving family they never were, self-deceiving and playing the role of a close-knit family. It's ridiculous. What did Lyra do wrong? She had been tortured for so many years. She didn't choose to be born into that family. Chapter 22. Thinking about all of this, I couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Lyra, seeing this, threw herself into my arms and asked, husband, what's wrong? I stroked her head, my tone low and somber. Lyra, my heart aches for you. She froze for a moment, then gently chuckled and snuggled into me. The sound of her laughter resonated in my chest, sending waves of warmth through my heart. She said, if I knew you cared this much about me, I would have complained even more. I chuckled softly. The next moment, I slid a diamond ring onto her ring finger. Lyra stared at the ring in shock, her eyes wide with surprise. I said, your family hasn't treated you well, and if I don't treat you well, I can't imagine how much that would hurt you. I continued, this time, let me be the one to be your family, okay? The wedding should be the grandest, and the wedding dress should be the most beautiful. Her eyes reddened, and she buried her face in my chest, choking out, okay. Chapter 23. After witnessing the fiasco of Kai and Seraphina's engagement, Lyra and I both agreed that the misunderstanding needed to be cleared up sooner rather than later. With our friends and family all in China, we decided to hold the wedding there. After returning to China, I met Lyra's older brother for the first time. His face was still not in the best shape, but there was nothing he could say. First of all, he had no control over us. Second, he couldn't even control his own daughter, who insisted on marrying no one but my brother. And most importantly, I had already achieved the ambitions I had in my youth, and I no longer needed to depend on anyone. The whole "we're from different worlds" argument could go to hell. I spent a month preparing, giving Lyra the grandest wedding possible. But the guests were all people Lyra invited. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Lyra invited everyone from my past relationships, including Alara. She even arranged for them to sit at the same table. This woman just kept pushing her limits, constantly crossing the line. I said, "Lyra, you really want to stir up trouble, don't you?" She looked down with a hint of innocence and grievance. She said, "I've been so jealous of you for these past 4 years in college. It wasn't easy for us to get back together. Can I show off a little since we got back together?" She had become more demanding, but when I looked into her eyes, as warm as autumn sunlight, my heart softened. I said, "Fine, do as you wish." During the toasts, Alara kept her lips sealed, surrounded by a heavy, defeated aura. This was thanks to someone's relentless provocation. When I first returned to China, Alara begged me for forgiveness multiple times. After she found out I was getting married, she even came to my house crying in the middle of the night. But it was Lyra who answered the door, radiating an icy coldness. That was the first time I saw her speak in such a harsh tone. Taking off her gentle, composed mask, she raised an eyebrow, revealing a wicked sneer. She said sarcastically, "I'm already showing, but you're still not letting go? Just get lost." Despite being humiliated like this, she still showed up at my wedding. Alara looked up at me, a painful smile tugging at her lips. She said, "Ethan, I wish you happiness, and I'm sorry." I didn't respond, just as I hadn't accepted Kevin's apology. The wounds I had suffered couldn't be healed with a light sorry. In this life, there's no need to force a perfect ending. Victims have the right to refuse forgiveness. Chapter 24. That night, Lyra was unusually drunk. The corners of her eyes were tinged with a hint of vulnerability that had never shown before. She clung tightly to my arm, as if afraid I might slip away. I sighed helplessly and softly comforted her. She gazed at me, her voice full of grievance as she said, "If only we had never separated." I had thought about that too. If we hadn't had that misunderstanding, would we be happier now? The answer, maybe not. If Kevin could boldly say those things, how could her father and brother ever have accepted her marrying me? So no matter what, there would always be regrets. It's better to cherish the present. We've both become better, more mature adults, and even after encountering all kinds of people and seeing a broader world, we still find each other and fall in love again. That's what makes it so precious. I kissed her eyes, feeling her lashes tremble lightly on my lips. I said, "Lyra, everything is just right." Chapter Extra. In front of others, Lyra always acted like a gentle and refined lady, but only Ethan knew just how jealous and scheming she could be. After they got married, she gradually showed her possessiveness. Whenever Ethan looked at another woman, she would throw a little tantrum. She'd sulk and act all sarcastic, moody. She was basically like Ophelia from Shakespeare's Hamlet. As this happened more often, Ethan grew tired of comforting her and decided it was time for a serious conversation. Every time this came up, she would act all melancholic, like she was on the verge of dying. Her expression would be so desolate, like a little abandoned animal. She knew exactly how to get to Ethan. He just couldn't bring himself to scold her. Instead, he had to find another way to punish her. The next day, she woke up happily and made breakfast. The smile on her lips was impossible to hide. Only the faint red marks on her collarbone showed how she had been punished. Not only that, but she had also added all of Ethan's exes: Maria, Sophia, Lisa, Laura. It was like she was reading off a list of people to target. Then she would post pictures of their baby and show off their love every few days. She posted, "So cute. Looks just like my husband. My husband worked all morning just to make me breakfast. He loves me so much. Ugh, he's so clingy. What should I do? Oh, I forgot, some people don't have a husband." The victims of these constant posts were easily triggered. Some couldn't resist and sent screenshots to Ethan. "Can you control your wife?" Ethan replied with a question mark. He took a deep breath, already planning how he was going to punish someone tonight.